So for my new painting, I wanted to talk about all the synchronicities and signs that I got during or before I started painting this, kind of leading up to it. And there's quite a bit of things that happened. Usually I just tell one of my best friends who also went through a spiritual awakening and is still going through hers. I think we're always going through it, but I went through the depths of one, started about 2019, and this would be, I think, about year 7. And from what I read, that is kind of like that period of time where you go through basically. And I'm a Pisces, so 2026, I see all of these Instagram posts where, it was fine up until like 2019, 2020, and there's all these scribbles. And then 2026 is just evening out. And as we've come into April, that is now starting to kind of flow for me a lot better. So, but the beginning of the year was also very, very challenging as well, along with the end of 2025. But that being said, I am very open. I'm very intuitive, and I've just gotten better and better, stronger with it, more trusting with my guides and angels. And they are definitely guiding me in this life. And I decided to go from surface pattern design, where I'd put the majority of my energy for the last several years, basically, especially the last, I'm going to say, year and a half, maybe 2 years, thinking that was going to be me, like a surface pattern designer. And perhaps that will be in the future, but something happened and I decided I just needed to pivot and go with what was happening for me, which is I wanted to paint large watercolors and not realistic. I wanted them to come from my imagination and specifically downloads from spirit, which is what was happening. I didn't ask, it just kind of happened. And since my first painting, I have been getting my first painting, like the large paintings where I pivoted. It was the giant ant coming out of the window, going through a threshold. So there's a lot of symbolism behind that painting, and I had seen it in a dream. And then this Phoenix Rising was my next large painting, and that had a bunch of synchronicities around it as well, which I'd posted in a previous video. This painting is kind of wild to me and amazing, and it's all about this past life that I had lived, and it was in Lemuria, and I was part of a Mintakan, I always say it wrong, Mintakan people, that community, and we were people who loved the ocean and maybe even like mermaids. And there were just so many synchronicities around this that I had to share. I wrote them all down. I'm going to keep looking down because they're all here. So I won't forget. So I wanted to kind of start off and just tell you like what happened through this process. It was basically a process of a couple of weeks. I had been starting to come to a completion on my Phoenix Rising painting. And I thought, okay, spirit, come through me and show me my next painting. And I originally thought it was going to be an owl. And then it turned out not to be that at all. So maybe down the road, an owl. Owls are one of my spirit animals that guided me along my journey, my original part of my spiritual awakening. So I wrote these down. I wrote down what happened. So go to a therapist and every couple of weeks, and I've been there for years, and it's awesome, and she's fantastic. And I had a dream that she had whispered in my ear that my name is Dakota. She just whispered Dakota. And in my dream, I was like, first of all, excuse me, don't get that close to me. It's kind of weird because you have very good boundaries in therapy and she's very far away, and then I thought, I have been here for 3 years. How do you not know my name? My name is Deb, not Dakota. So I woke up and thought, that was bizarre. Like, what is that about? So I just thought about it. And usually what happens within 24 to 48 hours is more will happen. That synchronicity will, or that, that spark, that weird thing that happened, all of a sudden will totally make sense or play into something else. So that's what happened. So a couple days later, also I had like this vision of my next painting. I just had thought, oh, maybe like a whale shooting up into the moon. I had started to use gold foil, which I love. And I thought, okay, the moon will be some gold foil. And then just this whale, this blue whale shooting up to the gold moon. And I used tons of colors in my art. And this only had like navy blue whale, the white background, and the gold leaf moon. So I thought, well, that's interesting. That's not typically how I paint, but I always take my vision and I turn it into, the colors that I want to communicate. So a couple days later, there's a podcast by Sahara Rose. I listen to her most of the time, not all the time, but I've listened for years. There's been, crazy good synchronicities with her. And she was talking about this place called Lemuria, and she had on this guest, and they were talking about mermaids and dolphins, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I want to listen to this. And then I kept listening because several minutes in, she had mentioned a friend she had on the podcast previously named Dakota, and I thought that's my trigger word that's my trigger name to start listening. So the only reason my therapist was in there is because it was probably like something I would think about. If it was a friend who had whispered into my ear, I'd maybe think nothing of it. So anywho, I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen. So she starts talking about dolphins and mermaids. And then they start talking about the Mintakan, I'm never going to say that right, people and like characteristics that they have. And so I just was listening, and one was that they have brown hair, clearly. They were obsessed with Hawaii or a tropical place that was kind of nearby. A feeling of like this deep feeling of wanting to go home. So a couple things with Hawaii, when I was a kid growing up, I remember like all my friends had, posters and 90s, 80s and 90s pop icons. Everything was pop culture and it was plastered on their room. I wanted nothing to do with that. I was obsessed with Hawaii, even though I was landlocked in a Midwest state. Still am. And I was absolutely obsessed. There was an artist, Christian Reese Lassen, whose posters I had to have I think I had 6 of them around my room, and they were huge. And that's all I wanted. I wanted to look at those posters all day and night. And I was absolutely obsessed with everything Hawaii. Had never been. We had no money to travel anywhere, especially Hawaii. And just growing up, I was absolutely obsessed with Hawaii. So the feeling of wanting to go home, I have had that, that home. I've had that feeling since as long as I can remember. I never felt like I belonged in this world for good reason. And I had always wanted to go not where I was. I wanted to be home, and I couldn't figure out what home was. Through my spiritual awakening, that became almost unbearable. I had this deep feeling of wanting to go home so badly. It was extremely painful. But anyway, I had that feeling. Also, they said love of dolphins and whales. Obviously, I loved the ocean life, looking at those posters by Christian Reese Lassen on my wall. This was interesting. I found this on my own, just looking into the Mintakan people. Mintakan, I said it right. Typically they have a circular birthmark, and I have a circular birthmark on my leg. It's just, smaller than a dime. So that was really interesting too. And then they said typically they're teachers. I'm an art teacher, and I'm also a Pisces, so very much into water. I have a kayak. One of my favorite things to do is just go on a quiet lake and go kayaking on my own. So I had been typing all of this in the chat, or not in the chat, in the comments as well. I think I'm going to chat with everybody, of course. But, and then I texted my friend who's going through her own spiritual awakening, and she had said she was going to tell me about her own dream overnight, that we were outcasts in a past life, and we were traveling and we had to leave wherever we were. And most of the people had to travel by train. And I had to travel, what she said, the way of the water. And then I jumped in the water and jumped right back out because I screamed, or I don't know if I jumped back out, but I screamed because it was like jumping in acid. So I don't know if that's like the end of that past life, like a death in that life, or what she was dreaming, of. But it was very interesting that clearly I was probably some sort of mermaid, and I had to, go the route of the water, and it was tainted or something, obviously. So that's super interesting that she had dreamt that the night before and then was texting me after I was telling her a little bit of all of this. As I was typing in the comments, my experience, because I'm telling Sahara Rose, anyone who's going to read, all these synchronicities that came up for me. And I'm like, I don't care who knows this. If there's other people who I can connect with, that would be great. And as I'm typing Mintakan people, my left ear started to ring. And that is just my confirmation sign, basically, from my guides and spirit telling me, yep, that's true. So that was really cool. And all this happened before I had to go to work in the morning. Let's see. Oh, I started to look up, I think like later that day or night. I take notes, so I can't remember exactly when, if I'm not super specific. But I took notes. I looked up online Lemuria. So I continued to kind of look up Lemuria like later that day. And I found that this artist, author, illustrator named Ernest Haeckel, I believe that's how you pronounce. This is the book that I had wanted a long time ago. It's like 3 years ago I came across this book online, and I never purchased it. Mind you, I have a lot of books that I purchased in those 3 years, and I thought about that book once in a while, and I just never got it. And I thought that was odd. And I looked it up, and the author of this book, super interesting, he was like one of the founders or one of the people who believed in this philosophy about Lemuria. So of course I'm, looking into his book, and I decide I should finally purchase this book, right? So it comes in the mail the following week, I believe, or that Saturday. Everything happened within a week-ish. And I had been having just a lot of grief that had been coming up, specifically that Saturday, just for a number of reasons. And I was feeling low. I was crying in my car, which is not something I do really ever. So I started to look up Lemuria again, and I had gotten the book that Saturday in the mail and started looking through the pages. I was like, this is really cool. His designs are awesome. I can maybe incorporate, that inspiration into my own ideas for this painting. Then I'm kind of like, percolating in my head. So I remember I kept looking up about Lemuria and Ernest Haeckel. And when I first learned about him, I was following, and I still follow, she's my favorite artist to this day, Valerie Lynn. And I went back to her video where that's my first inspiration. I first found this book through her, basically, when she showed it on one of her videos. And it had been 3 years, so I went back and found the video. And I just watched the video again, and I noticed in the description, she added she had another book. I just never looked in the description, and it was The World of Ornament. So this book, and so I decided to look it up as well. And after I read through the Ernest Haeckel book and then looked at some images online of what's inside the world of ornament, I began to just become absolutely exhausted. Like, I had to sleep. I couldn't do anything but sleep. Mind you, I had had a pretty full night of sleep the night before, and I had felt fine up until that point. And this happened as well about a year or so ago. I had started reading Destiny of Souls, and every time I read that book for even just like 20, 30 minutes, I crashed afterwards. I absolutely had to sleep for an hour or two. So I do believe it triggers some things and you're like getting these downloads as you read, or as I read. So anyway, I was looking through the Ernest Haeckel book and some of the images of the world of ornament online, and I just had a nap and took a nap. I thought I was asleep for 10 minutes, and it turned out to be 2 hours. I literally thought it was 10 minutes. Oh, wow, that was 2 hours. And I remember in my sleep, remembering seeing just flashes of geometry, like sacred geometry, triangles, all kinds, circles, like mandalas. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot to take in. Can we pause? And so it paused for a split second, and then I just got more and more flashes. So it was really interesting. So I woke up and I was refreshed. Like I said, I thought I was asleep for 10 minutes. It was 2 full hours. And then I just left the house, came back, went to run some errands, came back, and then eventually got ready for bed. And I just scroll on my Instagram, usually in bed at night, for, 20, 30 minutes. And there was an Instagrammer who came up I had never seen before. And it caught my interest because there was a watercolor painted whale and a gold foil moon. It was like a crescent moon. And then it was white, and it had, I believe, some florals around it. And so it caught my interest, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's kind of what I had been envisioning in a way, like the same colors, the same, items, objects in the painting. So the whale, the moon. And I just thought, oh, this is interesting. So I went to her page, her Instagram page, and next to the whale image, the next painting was a hummingbird. And a hummingbird is my sign for my dad, who passed away. I actually have a tattoo of a little, just a line hummingbird, and hummingbirds everywhere. And my students are like, why do you have so many hummingbirds? And that's my sign. That has been my go-to sign for a very long time. So the fact that the whale was right next to the hummingbird said everything to me. I scrolled down a little bit more, and I saw that a couple months before she had painted a genie lamp. And I had just, I think in February, I had finished painting a genie lamp. I did a whole collection based on it with surface pattern design, and then created a Procreate watercolor painting of a genie lamp that I had seen. Tons of synchronicities around that, even with the tarot card reader online. I could get into all that, be a whole other video. And so I thought, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to make this whale in my own way, obviously, and make it about Lemuria. I just looked on her page a little bit more, on her stories. She had some books that she liked. I thought, oh, I'll go look and see. She had several stories you could go into. And I looked in her little book stories, and there were maybe like 5 or 6 books she recommended. Most were about impressionist artists. And then she had the world of ornament. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is definitely that's how they come in for me. It is it's like, I call it boom, 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 one right after the other, just leading and guiding me. I'm on the right path. So you betcha I went on Amazon and I ordered that book right away. And I remember the cost of the book. So I'm all about numbers as well. Total cost with everything, $22.62, 2262. And I didn't write down what that means. I always look them up on Sacred Scribes to see what they mean. I'm sure it's something about following your path. It always is. Anyway, and 222 is one of my best numbers, my top number, and then 777, which means you're on the right path. 222 is faith and trust. So I got all of these synchronicities, these signs, and I just knew this was what I'm supposed to create. And this was my path. I was being guided by spirit. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, cannot convince me I was not guided. I was in Lemuria, and I was part of the Mintakan people. And I think Spirit's just going to continue to, you know, create these downloads, give me these downloads to work through me. I remember a while back, I was told by a very good medium who is amazing. And she had said, your Spirit's going to work through you, and you're going to like inspire others with your painting. They'll look at your painting and go, sorry, this almost fell. Look at your painting and just like have this connection, and they won't know why. And I thought, oh, it's because it's going to be beautiful, obviously. But I totally get what she's saying now is I'm creating to help heal people, to connect, to, you know, find something within themselves that maybe they have lost. But there's a reason I'm supposed to be doing this and supposed to be creating like I am. And so super long explanation. We're in 22 minutes, you guys. So thanks for sticking around to all my synchronicities and stories. I didn't know how or if or, you know, when I was going to share the synchronicities, the signs around how I am, you know, creating this piece of art, and my other pieces as well. I've told a little bit about those as well, but I thought, you know, the right people will come and comment and be here to enjoy the story and hopefully resonate or maybe awaken something within them or you. But yeah, leave a comment if you had any experiences with, you know, past lives and those kind of coming up for you in certain ways. I did do a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, is it QHHT? I can't remember. The quantum, like you're going back to remember past lives. It's like they take you through, it's like 2 or 3 hours worth of almost like a hypnosis. And you remember these scenarios, these past lives. And it was really interesting. I could get into all of that in another video. It's a whole day for that one. But it was amazing. And so anyway, getting super long here, but thanks for staying to listen, and any comments, please leave them. I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. Thanks.